Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of Macabre Matinee with Craig and Sean. As per usual, I am Craig Lance.
And I'm Sean, bearded Capolitan.
Awesome. We are recording on New Year's Day, so we wanted to wish all of you a happy New Year, and we hope the only scares you get for 2021 come from the macabre arts you choose to consume.
That's right. That's right. We're kicking off the new year as of this recording, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Uh,
guys will get it here in a couple of days,
yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah. We are kicking it off with a entry into the franchise. Well, yeah, we'll get to that here later.
Yeah. So, thanks for tuning in again this week. We are going to discuss Friday the 13th, Part 5, the new chapter. And, we're going to discuss this movie in depth, so there's no way to do that without spoiling it. If you haven't seen the movie, now's your chance to press pause and go and watch it and come back and finish listening to our show when you're done. We don't want any nasty emails or DMs telling us that we spoiled the movie for you. And this one does have a major spoiler in it, so please, if you don't want to be spoiled, uh, like I
Yeah.
said, go watch it and then come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Go check this one out if you don't want to be spoiled, because this one, more than a lot of the early ones, definitely has that whodunit vibe.
Exactly. So this is part 5, the new beginning, because as we know, the last movie was the final chapter, so they had to come up with a new beginning.
Yep, that's right.
This one was released in 1985. It was directed by Danny Steinman, written by Martin Kitrosser, I believe is how you say his name, and David Cohen.
Right.
It's starring John Shepard as Tommy Jarvis, Melanie Kinnaman as Pam, Shiva Ross as Reggie the Reckless, and Richard Young as Dr. Matt. And it's got a cameo by Corey Feldman as young Tommy. You might be going, well, you didn't tell us who's Jason in this one. Well, we'll get to that here in a minute.
Right.
So, you know how all the Friday the 13th movies start off with a recap? They have that formula, Sean?
Oh yeah, every
Yeah,
single movie.
except for this one said,
Except
fuck
this.
you, we're gonna do our own thing.
Well, it
So,
is really telling you that that this is the new beginning. This is this while Tommy Jarvis is in it, so it's definitely connected to the last film. But they are really trying to make you just like, I guess, no expectations of what happened before. It doesn't matter. You're in the new Friday the 13th.
exactly. And so this one instead opens off with young Tommy watching as two men dig up the grave of Jason. As they open the coffin, Jason comes to life and kills them both because evidently they buried Jason with weapons. But
I mean, it's only courteous to bury him with his most treasured object.
so he then sets his focus on Tommy, and as he goes to strike down Tommy, older Tommy startles awake, having had a nightmare. So, whether those two kills count or not, we don't know.
Right.
So, Tommy is being transported to Pinehurst Youth Development Center, kind of halfway house where one is rehabilitated to enter back into society following any sort of incarceration. So, being in a mental health facility, which Tommy was after the events of episode 3, 4. Yeah,
Four.
I've got to keep my yeah.
Four.
So
Yeah.
after the events of the last movie, mental health facility, juvenile hall, drug facility, anything of that kind of nature. This is kind of a halfway house for troubled youth.
Yeah, this is that good era of the '80s when literally mentally, being just like having drug problems and kind of mental issues, runaway or just whatever. We're just you're a troubled youth. We're all just going to throw you in together with predictable results that are shown in this film.
Well, there is a little bit of a commentary here because this is about, well, probably shortly after Reagan defunded the mental health facilities
Oh,
and
okay.
he lowered the IQ on what could be considered mentally retarded.
Right, right.
And when he did that, it put a lot of people in the streets. So there's probably a little bit of a political commentary there with that, but that's not what we're here to get into.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And apparently at this facility they have outlawed bras. I mean, that's a thing. None of the women wear bras here.
Look, it's a progressive society that they are living in. They are just supportive of the women's movement. Yeah, that's completely why they're doing it. Total women empowerment. That's the only reason.
That's exactly why. This facility is ran by Dr. Matt and Assistant Director Pam. Tommy is clearly unstable following the events of the last movie.
Yeah.
He's still seeing images of Jason where Jason is not. He has become reclusive and only speaks when he has to, and is quick to anger. Yeah, he just will beat the shit out of people for just annoying him, basically.
Right.
Also, apparently, this facility he was staying at wasn't very good at checking their patients, as Tommy has managed to smuggle a pocket knife out.
Oh, yeah.
I personally have had, I haven't been in a mental health institute, but I have had to check someone in before, and I personally know that they go through stuff. But that's just, it was a convenient little way for him to get it. So he's got a pocket knife.
Right.
And we are soon greeted by the cops who are returning a couple of the kids who keep sneaking off the property to go have sex at the crazy neighbor's property. We get to meet the crazy neighbors who are absolutely batshit insane.
And that's saying a lot coming from people who are judging a sort of mental institution.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they are redneck, play to the stereotypes as much as you want to, just batshit insane. We slowly start to meet the other adults, at first through the eyes of a kid named Joey, who is obviously not quite ready to be on his own.
Right.
And is very obvious one of the kids that probably got released because of the program I talked about earlier.
Right.
Joey goes from person to person, unintentionally annoying them. And he meets up with Victor, the bad boy. We know he's the bad boy because he's wearing leather and spikes on his belt and has a spiked band on his arm.
A true sign of badassery in the 80s.
That is, absolutely. That's how you... The only thing he was missing was the workout gloves with the spikes on them.
Right.
He's chopping wood and Joey pushes him a little too far. Victor decides to go ahead and do some chopping up of Joey.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Loses his shit and kills Joey. After the death of Joey and the arrest of Victor, I believe we are left with 6 remaining troubled youths, and I say believe that because mostly they're forgettable.
Yeah.
One of them being Tommy, 3 staff members, and Reggie the Reckless, the grandson of the 3rd staff member.
Yeah.
Tommy continues to struggle with his stability, still snapping at people, and he has his mask from the last movie, and one of the other patients there, or I guess you call them patients, tenants, tries to scare him wearing the mask, and Tommy just body slams him and beats the hell out of him.
An excellent fireman's carry slam through a table.
Yes.
Like WWE would be so proud of him, and then just pummels the shit out of him.
In the meantime, any citizens of the nearby town with any sort of questionable morals are starting to get massacred.
Yes, they are.
Back at Pinehurst, Pam is going to take Reggie to see his brother at the local trailer park. Matt suggests Tommy ride along to give him a break from everyone else and maybe get his head on straight a little bit.
Right.
While at the trailer park, Tommy is confronted by one of the crazy redneck neighbors, who he proceeds to beat pretty viciously. When it looks like he is about to break and just snap and kill the guy, Pam hollers out his name and stops him, and Tommy runs off into the woods. Pam and Reggie return to find that Matt and a couple of the kids are missing. Pam leaves Reggie with the other kids while she goes to look for Matt. Reggie's brother and his girlfriend, who are back at the trailer park, along with the crazy neighbors, get killed.
Yeah.
And then while Pam is away, the rest of the troubled youth are killed off one by one. Reggie finds the bodies as Pam returns. Pam and Reggie battle Jason, and just as you are really convinced that it is Tommy, he turns up and helps them kill Jason.
Yeah.
Except it isn't Jason. So it turns out to be the ambulance driver or the paramedic whose son happens to be Joey, the kid that was killed by Victor at the beginning of it.
Yep.
And when he shows up to take Joey away, it causes a snap in him, and he uses the Jason persona to hide that it's him and to potentially blame it on Tommy, since everyone knows Tommy's backstory.
Right.
And as a hell of a way to misdirect you to it, that Tommy is Jason is what you're believing. Now, there's some hints through the movie that it's not Jason. The fact that the mask is a different color.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the axe cut through it. So.
Yeah, I mean, from the, like I said, it has the blue marks on it instead of the traditional red.
Right.
Even the movie poster has a completely different mask that's not even shown in the movie. So it's like they're pretty much telling you that Jason's not returning. But what they do throughout, and it's to its credit, it does paint from Victor to Tommy to like a few other characters. Like the Hillbillies had that one guy that's kind of show up for work, and he's real like intense and serious for a little while. So you're like,
right.
They are kind of painting a mystery, at least a little bit, of like who is the new Jason. If Jason's dead, who's doing these killings? It does do that pretty well.
It does. Like for instance, Matt is missing for a good portion of the movie, and it's like, he disappeared about the time the killings really started.
Right.
Now, once you know there's a plot twist to it, you go back and rewatch it.
Oh, yeah.
It does the typical thing that most movies do, like where it like freezes on Roy's face early in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
When they're talking about Jason and things like that. It kind of gives they give you the hints, but it's stuff that you missed the first time around, but that's very obvious the second time around.
Yeah, I mean,
so
when he sees his son chopped up and it's just sitting on it, it's there, and then the next time they come back through, he's cool as a cucumber. In retrospect, knowing that it's him, yeah, it's like the hints are definitely stronger for him.
Yeah, exactly. But it does do exactly what you said, which is give you kind of a mystery on who you think it is. I know the first time I watched it, I just assumed it was Tommy.
Right.
And that was years ago, but I just assumed it was Tommy. They clearly suggest through the whole thing that he's not mentally stable, and he's not.
And he's
but
out of like I said, I remember liking this movie a lot more until I watched it for this review. And I will still say though that if you don't know the twist, there's still some good misdirections and possibilities of who it could be, throughout. And like I said, laying heavily into Tommy, kind of this, like, you're feeling throughout, okay, yeah, I'm right. That's my expectation. It's correct. Right. So with all that, you may not be paying attention to the little things that Roy did throughout in the couple of scenes that he showed up. So it did that well. Now for the rest of the movie, oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
The concept of this movie is great. The execution of this movie,
well, they clearly there were two intentions in this movie, more so than any of the other ones we've seen thus far, that they wanted to execute. One of them, one of those things was a lot of kills, which we did get but a lot of the blood and gore ended up on the cutting room floor. This movie, more than any of them, cut away from like seeing the deaths. You see aftermath, which gives you some gory
Yeah.
images, but there's very few where you actually don't see a cutaway to their face because a lot of people die by getting stabbed in the stomach because that way they don't have to really show it, you know. But
Yeah, and that was going to be my question to you: is if a lot of them ended up on the cutting room floor? Because
yes,
I had that same feeling watching it. That
yeah,
man, this could have been so much better if they'd have shown all of these kills.
right, and unfortunately, then what didn't balance out was what they were also going for because the director was known for softcore pornography films. And
Oh, that makes sense.
which is the second thing they were clearly going for was titillation, emphasis on the tit, because there is a lot of nudity in this one. As you said, bras are not welcome within
That's
this.
right.
From wet t-shirts to what apparently a sex scene in the woods that was apparently many minutes longer and more graphic, and it got cut severely down.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, like with is her name Deborah? Like the actress. I know her last name is Voorhees, which is a big reason they gave her the part, as well as she was okay with doing nudity,
Oh, that's hilarious.
which was a lot. I mean, and like a lot of the actresses had to be obviously be okay. One actress who I believe is in the next film turned down the role because she didn't want to do nudity. So,
Yeah. Okay.
but they brought her back and for a role. We'll get to that in the next one. But yeah, so
Yeah.
they wanted to give us blood, guts, tits, and ass, and they only got about half of that right. You know what I mean? But like, as much as we enjoy a beautiful woman or even a beautiful man, there's some good shirtless men sequences for those that
Yeah.
like that. Tommy's fucking ripped. He got crazy and jacked.
Well, and Eddie, the guy that he body slams,
Yeah,
he's pretty ripped as well.
Right,
So
that's what I'm saying. So they give you that nice titillation for everybody in this film. But usually, if you want that, and like I said, as much as we appreciate that, you got to have the balance of what you want, and they also want in horror movies. That's usually violence. In the most like besides, don't get it wrong, we always appreciate a good story. But if we're just gonna watch a basic slasher film like this one, you kind of want a good
Yeah.
mix of both. They get some kind
Well,
of enjoyment.
I feel like this had a good story, but I don't feel like it was executed very well.
No, absolutely. The whole who done it kind of thing, and like will Tommy take over
Yeah.
for the man he killed as a child? It makes sense, and it was a good continuation. It kind of like this is kind of the Halloween 3 of this franchise, where outside of you'll see in the beginning of the next movie, there's that little connection. Beyond that, it's pretty standalone, even though it is somewhat of its own trilogy, but yet not. More like it's just it is a direct sequel, like the others have been, but like it feels very disjointed from the rest.
It does, and part of that's not having Jason or Pamela Voorhees.
Yeah,
Um,
but
and while you have a Jason figure, and Roy even goes to the pains of having not just wearing a hockey mask, but he gets an entire mask that makes him look disfigured like Jason.
yeah, and apparently work out like a motherfucker because this dude was pulling Jason level strength feats, and to see Roy as a paramedic, like he literally had one girl lifted up by the throat and just lifted her up like fucking Kane in the WWF, choking. And it's like, okay, that's what makes you believe, like seeing Tom again, the little things like that, like seeing how I think that scene was after you saw a shirtless Tommy or saw some of the other potentials who are bigger guys. So it kind of kind of puts it in that way. Whether it makes sense or not, they did try. I do want to note, as we said, there is a high body count in this one, which I know you'll give the official one. But I got to point out is where the fuck did 1950s greasers just show up randomly?
Yeah. So this is a thing in 80s movies. They thought that bad boys in 80s movies still dressed like 1960s rock stars, like maybe like Judas Priest.
Right.
I know no one in the 80s that was wearing leather jackets with studs in them.
I mean, there was always the punk scene, but they were also, like you said, though, but those were a specific niche group of people who really followed, like you said, the 60s British punk scene.
Exactly. That is true. There were those people. These were not punk rockers.
No. These dudes are literally just 1950s greasers going, driving an old car that he just murdered for no reason because they have absolutely no connection to this. It's just you could kind of argue that Roy just fucking snapped, and just
Yeah, it was to just show that dude had snapped. I mean, quite
I
honestly.
mean, same with his paramedic. Although, granted, his partner, the other paramedic, who also gets killed with his waitress girlfriend, he was talking shit to him right when and making fun of his. He didn't know it was his dead son, but like yeah, so like that at least connected. But these '50s greasers, just kind of
Yeah.
out of nowhere. But they were assholes, so okay. It's I'm not mad with that.
Well, so the dude with the diner girlfriend was different than the other paramedic, but
Well,
both of them did get killed.
oh, I
So
thought that was him. I must
no,
be
it was the
mistaken.
guy that dropped Tommy off at the beginning
You're right. Okay, yeah.
that worked for the mental health facility.
Oh,
But yeah,
okay.
but yeah, also an asshole and
Yeah.
also morally reprehensible. Apparently,
Well,
enough, you know.
he enjoys his cocaine and his girlfriends that just flash themselves
Yeah,
in the
which
mirror.
we're not making
Yeah,
judgments on
no,
people's drug use for
not at all.
sure. Just according to the movies,
Yes, as
this
part of
would be
that.
something that would morally get you killed.
Yeah, as the pseudo moral system that's in horror movies. Little note though, like you mentioned, we did get Corey Feldman in the beginning,
Yeah,
reprising young Tommy Jarvis, and that apparently was such a quick thrown together. That entire scene was shot in the backyard of Corey Feldman's neighbor's house, where they just really wanted to, because I believe they had a different opening planned. Actually, this whole movie went through a lot of like rewrites and reshoots. It actually wasn't going to be about Tommy. It was going to be about Jenny from part three, I believe it was,
okay, okay,
where she had been dealing with nightmares and visions and the memory of actual Jason, and they're going to put her into
gotcha.
into the situation.
Part Jenny was part two, I
Two,
think,
okay,
but
yeah.
yeah,
It was going to be about her, but that actress said, "Nah, I'm good."
yeah, I'm good.
Like,
I've done my Jason thing. I'm good.
yeah, so it was originally going to be about hers, and then they decided to go with Tommy. And so they kind of like Feldman was in the middle, I think, of filming Goonies or one of his other like his childhood movies he starred in. So they were literally like, okay, we need this now. They probably threw him a good chunk of change. He said, let's go over to your neighbor's house. We'll get the rain machine and just film that dream sequence of Jason killing two very overly excited to be digging up a grave guys. Like,
Yeah,
that dude was hooping and a hollering, which just goes kind of show
yeah,
this whole movie. Like, you don't really. It's always nice when you find a character with some depth and some good character development in a horror movie, and you're kind of used to the people just kind of playing the stereotypes, playing the very specific roles. But
yeah.
everybody here was just a cartoon. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I mean, that was one of my kind of complaints on this movie is that all of the characters in this movie
Yeah.
are so stereotypical that it's almost insulting to the viewer.
Yeah, well, again, like I said, I remember liking this one a lot more. But I guess when you do go, and don't get me wrong, there's still some good in this. Again, like I said, the mystery
Oh,
with
it's
that,
it's not the worst
yeah,
horror movie by far. Don't get me wrong.
no. But as far as like what we've seen up until here, and especially following part four, it's a hard fall from part four, which is like as we had said in our last review, this is like as close as we
Yeah,
found so far to a perfect horror movie within this franchise. But
yeah,
another little side note, again, these characters, like they brought in Reggie the Reckless's brother, who is a
yeah,
leather wearing, hardcore, calling his girlfriend bitch all the time, named Demon, and apparently he just sings like
yeah,
Prince. Like he has like the
yeah.
softest singing voice, and he's all this, but it's like, wow, you're called Demon. I expected him to be like hardcore. And he's got a very high pitched singing voice, which hey,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's why you end up dead in a porta potty of sorts.
yeah, yeah.
Which
A outhouse maybe at a trailer park. Yeah,
yeah, it was
that's
something.
a bad way to die.
Those damn enchiladas will get you every time, apparently.
Yeah, yeah. Don't eat gas station enchiladas when Jason's around or somebody pretending to be Jason because it will get you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. You know, the other thing for me on this that where it really took a downturn was in the acting.
Yeah,
With the exception of Pam, who I thought did a pretty good job, quite honestly. Um, Reggie and Tommy, who were basically the three stars of this movie,
yeah,
literally no one else in this movie. Do you care enough about their performance to care whether they live, die, or otherwise?
Right. Now, they were definitely the best actors for characters you should care about. I will give
Yes.
a shout out. She was crazy and annoying and stupid, but the woman who acted as the hillbilly mom fucking owned
Yeah.
that role. She did. She was
I
fucking crazy and really well done. I can't remember her name. I didn't write it down, but I know she's kind of a character actress from around that era. And like,
okay.
yeah, so they brought her in because they
The
wanted her.
character annoyed me so much I didn't even look up her name, so I'm
Yeah,
sorry for that.
but
Uh,
I mean, she got hers, and so did her son,
yeah.
who I know we all after we've all gotten hurt or beat up in our lives, and like anybody else, we jump on our motorcycle and ride around our home screaming at the top of our lungs in anger, like anybody would do after
I'm
getting
driving
beat
on the
up.
porch and
Yeah,
yelling, "Mom, he got me! He got me, Mom!"
and he got decapitated for his efforts, cleanly too, from just
Yeah.
again, like
Uh,
a bonus like for a lot of horror movies is typically you appreciate the kills on these annoying characters, which again I think one of the fatal flaws of this film was that they were more concerned about making sure they kept all the boobs in and not enough
yeah.
kills in their censoring. So while you get annoying character deaths, you don't get the enjoyment of seeing it. All you see is their stupid faces react, and then maybe a little aftermath gore.
Yeah, so let's talk about the kills. There
Yeah,
was three different kills and dream sequences because at the end of the movie, I'm just going to assume that the writers for Inception took the end of this movie and thought, "Huh, we can do something with a
right.
dream and a dream." So there is three deaths in dream sequence. One kill by Victor, one or maybe two by Tommy. It's unclear at the end. We'll
Right.
have to wait till part 6 to find out. And 18 by not Jason.
Right.
So that's a pretty hefty kill count.
Oh, yeah, like not only did he go crazy, he became efficient at it. Like this man was not
do,
fucking around this movie.
do you think at the end of this, when he's getting his ass kicked and, Pam pulls a chainsaw on him, he's thinking, maybe I bit off a little bit more than I could chew with this whole thing. I didn't realize how much of an ass kicking Jason took on occasion.
I don't think I think he's like, man, I may not have thought this all the way through, but it's too late to go back now. But yeah, there's sequences, whether intentional or not, you can kind of tell towards that end before he takes his final plunge. Uh, yeah, there's like he's getting cut and hurt. You see that little hesitation, which again kind of brings in that like you may think it might, you don't think you don't know who it is, but it's like it is that you can tell he's still human because he
Yeah.
has those little hesitations still.
Well, I mean, he took some pretty hefty damage. So he
Yeah,
gets, at one point Reggie runs him over with a tractor.
yeah,
Um, he gets attacked with a chainsaw. Tommy gets him with a machete. He's taken some damage,
yeah.
and then he loses a hand and falls off the edge of the barn. Apparently, barns and rain are, just a thing in this universe. But
Well,
yeah,
I still truly believe the rain sequence alone, which granted I guess you could maybe it was intentional or not, was like how the movie opened in a dream sequence with rain and it ended
right.
in rain.
Oh,
That may have been intentional. I think it was just to
yeah.
make sure Pam had a wet T-shirt on with no bra, and
Oh,
which
for sure.
which the actress
For
herself even
sure.
said she didn't like that shirt until she saw it wet on screen. Was like, oh yeah, it does look good. So she was okay with showing the goods.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But
yeah, you know, it's not my favorite in the franchise, but it's certainly it I've seen worse horror movies
oh,
in my
absolutely,
life. It fits in with the series. The score is a little just almost non-existent till the end.
yeah,
Um, which we've talked about the score enough in these movies and how they use them to a certain extent.
right,
But I it was funny because at one point two of the kids are watching a movie in the living room, and the score in the movie, because they're watching a horror movie, actually makes it noticeable that there's been no score up to this point in this movie.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely.
It's so, to me, it, I feel like they cut in some places where they probably shouldn't have. They kept some stuff in that they probably shouldn't have. Uh, the effects, while not as, you can definitely tell that that it's not Savini
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
these.
definitely that. Now, granted, with if there's ever a director's cut release,
Yeah,
and we could actually see a bit more of the gore, because, like I said, it's very cutaway. Even if they show like the aftermath, it's not. It doesn't sit there very long. Which sometimes
yeah.
less is more can be effective. But again, you got to have that balance to make it worth it, and this one really doesn't. The
Well, if you're going to have a lot of cutaways and not show the deaths, you got to have more suspense.
Right,
And I think that this movie lacked in the suspense and the tension buildup. Uh, and then you didn't get the really good shots of the kills.
right. Like it honestly, like as far as like again, like it's more the aftermath. It starts on a high, to be very honest. Was it Joey, the kid that got axed?
Yes.
Joey, like you said, all you see is him swing toward his back and a close up on his eyes going big and him screaming, and you don't see anything. But when Roy pulls the blanket, they pull the blanket back and Roy sees him. You see his body chopped up to
Right.
pieces, and that's a gory scene. And it
That's
kind
right.
of, you think it's going to set a standard, and the movie doesn't deliver after that, as far as like that level. If you're looking for some good gore in a slasher film,
Well, I mean, even ex- going back to the suspense,
yeah,
which like I said, you got to have if you're not going to have the good gory kills, right?
right.
The all of the suspense happened at the beginning of the movie, and then it just went away.
Yeah, absolutely. It really did deteriorate into just boobs and mediocre kills. That's
Yeah, you
really
you
all they
can
had going.
yeah you can tell that a lot of it got cut,
Yeah.
and it becomes pretty obvious. So
But it does
uh,
have a breakdance sequence. You got to give it
it,
that.
it does have, by what if you saw this girl in today's world, you would call her an emo.
Yeah, yeah. But
Back then, she was,
he was definitely a fan of the popping and the locking.
she was,
That's
she
the and
was,
she got lifted up by her throat for it and stabbed in the stomach.
she was 100% the stereotypical girl that or kid from that time period that would not turn off their music for anything,
Right.
and she paid for it. Um, what was your favorite kill on this one,
Well,
Sean?
now here's the funny thing. Um, like I said, watching this movie again, did not enjoy it as much as I have, and overall, from what I remember of the rest of the series, it's definitely on a low point. I have to say, it actually has one of my favorite kills in the franchise.
I think I know which one it is, but go for it because there's only two that stood out to me.
Yeah, there are two,
So
and I was really thinking about it, but then I thought about like, okay, when I think of part five, what's the first kill I think of? And they both
yeah,
happen in the same area,
yeah,
to the couple. My favorite is the leather strap around the eyes, and then with the
okay,
stick uh, eh, twisting it until you see it snap. Now, and granted, that I think actually works. The less is more actually works. You get a shot of the
yeah.
blood and like it dig it into his skull very briefly. I'm sure there was more, but like that kill I think worked with the less is more because all you see is him struggling to twist it more, and then you just see the leather thing, the leather of the stick snapped. Something snapped, and I think that actually was effective with all the cuts.
So yeah, that was one of the two that I had as like potential,
Yeah,
and I actually went with the other one,
right.
and that was the greaser guy that got the flare shoved down his throat.
That was a good one, but I think I was just so annoyed by the unexpected greaser. It kind of took away because, like, I mean, you don't really care about many of the characters in this, but then
Right.
even more so. But no, it's a solid kill. Just getting that shoved into your mouth. The
So
runner,
now I'm curious what your other one was that you were talking about.
it was the girlfriend of the guy who got the leather strap, where she had the hedge clippers that shoved into her eyes
Oh,
and
yeah, that was a
closed,
good one too.
which was
Yeah.
decent. Because, like I said,
If they
yeah, that's one of those
go
I think
ahead.
needed to show more. Either the
Yes.
either the clipping part, but like it somewhat worked with just seeing his hands struggle to close it, and you hear it,
Yeah.
but not to the effect I think of her. Other than her being a beautiful, large-breasted lady getting, laying there, that was more of a highlight than the actual kill in the end. When I had to break down what my favorite one was, it definitely had to go to her shirtless boyfriend.
Yeah, so that one was on there for me, but I cut it because it wasn't enough for me.
I
But
get that. I get that.
yeah, again, that's one of the things that this movie really lacked on. And I don't want to just keep harping on it because it's a solid movie. It's a solid entry in the franchise.
Yeah,
I
there's
think that us watching it immediately following four probably brings it down a little bit.
when you look at it analytically, because again, I used to marathon these movies back to back,
Yeah.
but I'm just watching it for my own entertainment. I'm not trying to look at scenes and really look at it, and which I love doing. Ever since I started, coming on the YouTube and giving my opinion on movies. But yeah, when you really look at it and watch it for its execution, not just what it's presenting, the flaws show. Like, it's not the worst, and because there's still one that's in my head that's the worst. But I don't know. Again, watching these again for this purpose has kind of changed my view a little bit on some of these. So, but
Yeah.
right now, probably the worst one we've seen so far. But there's still many more to come.
Well, I will say this about watching these analytically, and you know that you know, one of my favorite franchises is Halloween,
Right.
and I'm very quick to say that that is based on the first two, and
Right.
that it falls apart quickly. I
Absolutely.
will say this that the Friday the 13th series at this point of my rewatching them, I would have to, if I'm being honest, say it has more entries into the franchise that are better.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Like I said, we've talked before about your love of Halloween, and I like the franchise as well. And I get why it is kind of like you say, you kind of like a lot of people, a lot of your first or even your earliest ones tend to be your favorites. And Friday the 13th was my first really dive into
Right.
horror, so I love it for even all of its flaws. And same with Halloween, I thoroughly enjoyed them, but I didn't see Halloween until I was a bit older, so it doesn't quite hold that for me. But like
See,
you said, the first two are, and three, I do like three, which we'll get into that when we get to that franchise. But yeah,
yeah. Um, but I just thought I'd point that out because I know you and I have had that conversation a lot about, um, what's your favorite
yeah,
and
yeah,
so forth. But as I'm rewatching this, I'm actually going, this, if I'm grading the franchise on a whole, I
right,
would have to give Friday the 13th a better rating.
yeah,
But, maybe when we get to the Halloween movies, that might change back. But
yeah, yeah. I
the
mean,
first two Halloweens are always going to hold a special place for me, though.
oh,
So,
for sure, for sure. But yeah, I think well, we'll get into our, I guess, yeah, final thoughts. We kind of I think we've been kind of repeating it. Our biggest
yeah,
complaint is definitely
yep,
the lack of kills and the lack of characters to care about enough. And when you don't have that balance, even with your most basic slasher, it really kind of shows the weaknesses, not only in the genre, but just yeah, in this film especially. At this, it really brings it down. What could have been a very good follow up, and even maybe even a lead into the rest of the franchise, which they go in a completely different direction because it ends with even with Tommy wearing the mask. Even though we had a few psych outs with the dreams, it does
yeah,
end with him
the,
donning the mask and holding the butcher knife. Like he is like, I'm going to become Jason. and I don't know if it was the complaints from that or I don't really remember if this one none of them bombed. Surprisingly, every one of the Friday the 13th have always made their money back or more and with profit.
Yeah, I mean,
So, but we'll get into that next week when we review number 6 and when they just really take Jason to a or the Friday the 13th into a different direction.
well, speaking about things that changed, at one point and it can be written off as urban legend or whatever, so it's probably not a big deal.
Uh-huh.
But I'm assuming it's the mayor of this little town they're in
Right.
tells the sheriff that it can't be Jason because he was cremated.
Right.
So I'm going to chalk that up as urban legend.
Well, and now I don't
We'll
remember.
get into that.
Yeah, I don't remember if the next one addresses that. But what I did like, because I caught that too, and they're like, "Whoa, was this planning to be the end?" And I mean, they were. You could tell. I think when they were filming this, they weren't planning on Jason being a thing anymore because they wanted to kill him. That's the whole reason Savini came back to the last movie, like we discussed.
Right. Right.
So it was either that, but they did leave that little line though. Like, are you sure? Are you sure they cremated him? Do you
That's
know
right.
that? Like, so they dropped that little openness, keeping it open.
I think with this franchise, Halloween, some of the '80s franchises, they probably planned to end them a lot,
Right.
and then they made money, kept making money, so they kept going back to them.
Oh,
Because a lot of these have like a definitive ending, and then they still find a way to come back to it, or they change what happened at the ending and come back to
right.
it.
And I think to the flaw of a lot of them, and as we get to the different franchises, we'll discuss it further. With the exception of like Nightmare on Elm Street, because with Freddy being what he is, coming
Yeah,
back kind of makes sense, even though every damn movie they killed him for good. But we'll get to that when we cover that franchise.
yeah,
And like Halloween was supposed to be over after 2, with 3 being the kind of the spin-off in
right,
a sense. But that continued, and this too was the final chapter was supposed to be the final chapter. But
right.
then it became a new beginning, and then it goes into even weirder subtitles we'll get into.
Yep. So throw me your Scream rating, Sean.
This one, like when I remembered it being a solid 3.5. But watching it again, I got to give it a 2.
Okay, I gave it a 2.5. So
Right.
that's an average or a total of 4.5 from us. So,
Right.
and maybe I just wanted to give myself more room for more disappointment later. So,
No, that's fair. That's fair because, like I said, we don't want to. We I think we readjusted once, and we're going to try not to make a habit of that. No, I think a
that's right.
2 gives me the wiggle room for the ones I'm remembering not liking as much. With still plenty of plenty of
Room
room.
for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think 2 is exactly where it belongs. 2.5 is fair.
Okay. Yeah, it's a average run of the mill slasher movie. It's nothing special. It's nothing horrible. It's just an average run of the mill slasher movie.
Yeah.
And so you're going to get stereotypes and cheap kills and things like that. So, all right. So I think all that leaves is a recommendation, and I believe it's my turn.
It is your turn.
I am going to recommend a movie from France that came out in 2003,
Ooh.
and that movie is High Tension.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Have you
yeah.
seen this movie, Sean?
I don't remember because I know that name.
Okay.
I can't remember. Give me a little breakdown without getting too deep into it for those who
Yeah, so
want to
this
check it
is
out.
a girl is coming home to spend a quiet weekend at her parents' house. When she gets home, she picks up well, I mean, I guess it's her best friend, but they come home to stay for the weekend. And on the way there, there's an incident with a truck driver, and shit gets really weird at the house. The name is very fitting. The High Tension name. It does a very good job of creating suspense in this movie, and it's got a very good twist at the end. When this movie came out, it was hard to find in America at the theaters. I had to go to a little theater.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, to find it. It wasn't mass released at the theaters here.
Hmm.
I did see it at the theater though. Good. It's not Texas Chainsaw Massacre or anything like that, but it is a very good entry into the horror genre.
Okay. Yeah, I think I just heard the name. I don't believe I watched it. I'll have to try and check that one out myself.
Yeah, yeah, and you might find it under the original title name, which is I think it's in French, so I think it's
Right.
haute tension. So
Close
instead of
enough.
high tension, it's
Right.
just high is spelled in French, basically.
Right.
So
Right.
um, it's got an interesting little twist, which I won't spoil for anybody. But yeah, interesting little movie. Typical get you out of the city into a farm so that you don't have any way to escape type thing. But
Right.
yeah,
Oh, for
go
sure.
watch that. Let us know if you hate it or not, and let us know what you think about our show.
Absolutely. And we would like to thank y'all once again for tuning in. If you liked it, liked what you heard, please like, comment, let us know what you think about this film, and subscribe to hear more. We're doing this weekly. We're working our way through Friday the 13th, but we're going to do so many other horror movies. It's a very expansive genre, and we got a lot of good coming. And if let your friends know what's going on. Please share the videos around. Let everyone know that me and Craig are giving y'all some good little macabre matinee goodness going on.
Absolutely. Leave
But
some comments in our views and all of that sort of thing. Let us know what you think, what we can do to improve, or if you just love it the way it is.
right, right. Oh yeah, we always look forward to some feedback. But that's going to do it for today. So we're going to catch y'all later.